Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back, way back, to a time of brutal ambition, political backstabbing, and legions marching across a continent. We're talking about Julius Caesar, a name that still echoes with power, conquest, and a truly epic, often violent life. Imagine, for a moment, you're a young man in ancient Rome, a city of towering temples and bustling forums, but also a city gripped by fierce political rivalries and the constant rumble of war on its distant borders. This isn't the Rome of emperors yet, it's the chaotic, cutthroat Roman Republic, where fortunes are made and lost, and lives are ended, all on the whims of powerful men. Now, picture yourself trying to climb that greasy pole of Roman politics. You're born into an old, aristocratic family, the Julii, but they're not exactly rich or influential anymore. You don't have vast estates or legions of clients clamoring for your favor. You have ambition, a sharp mind, and a ruthless streak. And let me tell you, if you were actually trying to make it in this era, you'd probably be dead before your 30th birthday. Seriously, between the public assassinations, the street brawls, and the sheer number of diseases, surviving to old age was a genuine achievement. This wasn't a world of polite debates, it was a gladiatorial arena for power. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening, drop a comment below and let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes not to the gentle lapping of the Venetian canals, but to the harsh morning light filtering through the atrium of a modest Roman house. You are Gaius Julius Caesar, born into a patrician family that, despite its ancient lineage, has seen better days. The year is around 100 BCE, and Rome is a cauldron of ambition. The Republic, outwardly grand and powerful, is inwardly seething with tension. Powerful families, wealthy equestrians, and ambitious politicians constantly jostle for power, their struggles often spilling from the Senate floor into the violent streets. This is your birthright, a legacy of ancient glory, but a present reality that demands ruthless cunning and sheer audacity to truly rise. Your early life is shaped by the violent political currents of the late Republic. You grow up during the tumultuous era of Marius and Sulla, two rival generals whose personal armies marched on Rome itself, bringing civil war to the very heart of the city. You witness the brutal prescriptions of Sulla, lists of enemies marked for execution, their property confiscated. Your own family, connected to Marius, falls under Sulla's suspicion. You yourself are almost proscribed, saved only by the intervention of powerful friends and relatives. This early brush with death, this intimate understanding of political ruthlessness, imprints itself deeply on your psyche. It teaches you a brutal lesson in Rome. Power is not just about influence, it is about survival. You recognize early on that money, influence, and military success are the paths to true power. You embark on a career of public service, slowly accumulating positions of authority. You serve as a military tribune, gaining your first taste of command in Asia Minor. You participate in the Roman legal system, honing your skills as an orator, captivating audiences with your sharp wit and persuasive arguments. Even then, your speeches are noted for their passion and clarity, marking you as a man destined for public life. But you're also a man of expensive tastes and grand gestures. You spend lavishly to gain popularity, hosting gladiatorial games and public feasts that incur enormous debts. This isn't just recklessness, it's a calculated investment. In Rome, popular support is currency, and you're willing to pay top denarius for it. This reliance on debt, a common historical fact for ambitious Roman politicians, is a constant tightrope walk, requiring ever greater successes to maintain solvency. Your political career steadily advances. You become an aedile, responsible for public works and games, a perfect platform to showcase your generosity and organizational skills. You rebuild a monument to Marius, a bold act that publicly challenges the sullen establishment and endears you to the popular faction. This is a subtle but clear declaration of your political allegiance and your unwavering ambition. Then comes the role of Pontifex Maximus, the chief priest of Rome. This isn't just a religious title, it's a powerful political office, granting immense prestige and influence over public life. You achieve this, controversially, at a relatively young age, overcoming much older and more established rivals. This demonstrates your growing political acumen and your ability to leverage public support and strategic alliances. One lesser-known detail about your early political maneuvering is your incredible skill at bribery and political backroom deals. While public perception was crucial, much of Roman politics happened behind closed doors, through intricate networks of favors, promises, and outright cash. You were a master of this dark art, always knowing who to pay, who to threaten, and who to bring into your confidence to achieve your aims. It's a pragmatic, rather brutal truth of Roman politics that often gets overshadowed by the grand speeches and military victories. The academic debate still simmers over how much of Caesar's early rise was due to genuine public appeal versus the sheer amount of money and influence he was willing to deploy, legally or otherwise. Your ambition, however, is not confined to the political arena. You understand that true. Undeniable power in the Republic ultimately rests with the legions, without a military command. You are just another senator, albeit a successful one. The path to ultimate glory, you realize, lies through military conquest. You seek a proconsular command, an opportunity to govern a province and lead its armies. And so, after a series of political maneuvers, including the formation of the First Triumvirate, a secret political alliance with two other immensely powerful men, Pompey the Great, a renowned general, and Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome, you secure the governorship of Cisalpine Gaul, northern Italy, Illyricum, the Adriatic coast, and, crucially, Transalpine Gaul, southern France. This last province is the gateway to the vast, untamed lands of Gaul itself, a region of numerous, often warring, Celtic tribes, ripe for conquest and glory. The awful reality of your situation, even at this point, is the sheer financial pressure. Your lavish spending has left you with crippling debts. Crassus, in particular, has bailed you out repeatedly. You need a rich province, and you need a successful war, not just for glory, but for plunder, for slaves, and for the vast amounts of wealth that a victorious Roman general could extract from conquered lands. This isn't just about patriotism, it's about personal solvency and political survival. The debts are a constant, gnawing anxiety, a brutal engine driving your ambition. You are quite literally fighting for your financial life as you prepare to leave Rome for your provinces. You are a man on the cusp. You are a brilliant orator, a shrewd politician, and a charismatic leader. But you are still untested on the grand military stage. The legions await you, and beyond them, the formidable tribes of Gaul. This is your chance to prove yourself, to forge an empire for Rome, and perhaps for yourself. You leave the political squabbles of the Forum behind, knowing that your true destiny, your brutal path to immortality, lies in the mud and blood of battle. In the unforgiving wilderness of Gaul, you are about to unleash a war that will define an era and forever change the course of European history. You arrive in Transalpine Gaul, a vast and wild land, far removed from the marble elegance of Rome. Your new command, though politically advantageous, places you on the very edge of the known Roman world, facing a complex tapestry of Celtic tribes, the Gauls. These aren't unified nations. They are a multitude of independent peoples, often warring among themselves. yet capable of forming formidable alliances when threatened. This is where your brutal wars will truly begin. A decade-long campaign that will forge your legend in blood and iron, your immediate challenge, and the catalyst for your long engagement in Gaul, arises almost as soon as you arrive. The Helvetii, a powerful Celtic tribe, decide to migrate en masse from their lands in what is now Switzerland, intending to pass through Roman territory in Transalpine Gaul to settle further west. This massive movement of people, hundreds of thousands strong, poses an immediate threat to Roman security and trade routes. You, as governor, cannot allow such a large, potentially hostile force to simply march through your province unchallenged. This popular historical fact marks the beginning of Caesar's full-scale involvement in Gaul. You act with characteristic speed and decisiveness. You quickly raise additional legions, consolidating your forces. You intercept the Helvetii, initially denying them passage. When they attempt to bypass you, you pursue them relentlessly. The ensuing battle, the Battle of the Arar-Sona River, is your first major military engagement in Gaul. You catch a significant portion of the Helvetii crossing the river and inflict a crushing defeat, demonstrating your tactical acumen and the deadly efficiency of the Roman legion. The brutal reality of this war quickly becomes apparent. These aren't polite skirmishes, they are battles for survival. The Gauls are fierce warriors, individualistic and brave, often fighting with a desperate courage that can shock even the disciplined Romans. You learn to respect their ferocity, even as you devise methods to break their spirit and their will to resist. The initial campaigns against the Helvetii and then the Aedui, another powerful tribe, showcase your ability to exploit intertribal rivalries, playing one against the other. A classic Roman strategy of divide and conquer. One particularly awful aspect of these early campaigns is the sheer logistical nightmare of supplying a Roman army deep in hostile territory. Imagine trying to feed tens of thousands of legionaries, plus their support staff and cavalry, hundreds of miles from any established Roman supply base. You are constantly battling against hunger, disease, and the elements. Your legions march for weeks, carrying their own equipment and food, building temporary camps every night, and relying on foraging and local requisitions often forcibly extracted to survive. It's a relentless grind, and countless soldiers would have suffered from malnutrition, exhaustion, and illness even before facing the enemy. Another day, another 70 miles, and another meal of dried hardtack. You might hear a legionary grumble, stomping through the mud. At least the enemy tastes better. Maybe. You quickly establish a reputation for leading from the front. You don't merely issue orders from a safe distance. You are in the thick of the fighting, sharing the dangers and hardships with your men. This fosters immense loyalty among your legions, a critical factor in your future successes. Your soldiers see you as one of them, a commander who understands their suffering and is willing to bleed alongside them. As your campaign progresses, you face a new threat: the Germani tribes led by Ariovistus, who have crossed the Rhine into Gaul. Many Gallic tribes, weary of their influence, appeal to you for help. You, ever the opportunist, seize this chance to expand Roman influence and establish yourself as the protector of Gaul. You engage Ariovistus in battle, employing a clever tactical deception to overcome his superior numbers and rout his forces. This victory further solidifies your reputation as a military genius and brings vast new territories under your effective control. The brutal nature of your conquest is undeniable. You are not simply winning battles, you are systematically subjugating an entire people. When tribes resist, your response is swift and often merciless. Villages are burned, populations enslaved, and lands devastated. This is the harsh reality of Roman expansion, a policy designed to crush dissent and establish unquestioned Roman authority, while you undoubtedly try to avoid unnecessary slaughter when possible. Demonstrating Roman power requires a willingness to use overwhelming force. One little-known detail about your character during this period is your meticulous attention to detail in your written dispatches. You famously wrote your Commentari de Bello Gallico commentaries on the Gallic War, not just as a historical record, but as a brilliant piece of political propaganda. You were constantly sending reports back to Rome, carefully shaping the narrative of your campaigns, emphasizing your successes, justifying your actions, and downplaying any setbacks. You were, in essence, an ancient master of public relations, controlling your image even as you wielded the sword. The academic debate still rages among historians as to the degree of factual accuracy versus self-serving embellishment in Caesar's own accounts of the Gallic Wars. Are they reliable historical sources, or primarily political justifications for his actions? Scholars continue to scrutinize every line. Your campaigns aren't just about battles, they're about engineering feats. You order the construction of bridges, roads, and fortifications with astonishing speed. When the Germani threatened to cross the Rhine, you famously order a massive wooden bridge to be built in just 10 days. A feat of engineering that utterly astounds your enemies and demonstrates Roman technical superiority. This isn't just about moving troops. It's about projecting an image of unstoppable power and resourcefulness. It's a deliberate psychological tactic, showing the Gauls that Rome can overcome any natural barrier. The winters in Gaul are another relentless adversary. You establish elaborate winter camps, heavily fortified, to protect your legions from sudden attacks and the harsh weather. These camps are more like temporary cities, complete with workshops, hospitals, and logistical hubs. The sheer discipline required to maintain such an army year-round, deep in hostile territory, is a testament to Roman military organization. The soldiers endure freezing temperatures, dwindling supplies, and the constant threat of a Gallic uprising. It's a brutal existence, far from the warmth of the Mediterranean. You might hear a legionary cough, bundled in his wool cloak. This cold makes a Roman wish for a nice, warm skirmish instead. Your continued successes in Gaul also generate immense wealth for you. The plunder from conquered tribes, the sale of captives into slavery, and the vast resources of the newly controlled territories fill your coffers. This wealth is crucial. It allows you to continue paying off your enormous debts in Rome, to bribe politicians, and to maintain your popular image through lavish public spectacles. The brutal wars in Gaul aren't just about military glory. They are the engine of your political survival and ascent, as the years in Gaul turn into a relentless cycle of campaign, conquest, and consolidation. You establish yourself as arguably the most formidable military commander of your age. You have transformed a diverse collection of squabbling tribes into a Roman province, bringing the vast land of Gaul under the dominion of Rome. But this brutal subjugation has come at an immense cost in human lives, both Gallic and Roman. You are forging an empire, one victory, one brutal siege, one enslaved population at a time, solidifying your power and setting the stage for an even greater, more devastating conflict back home in Rome. The relentless cycle of campaigning in Gaul continues. Year after brutal year, you are no longer just reacting to threats. You are actively shaping the future of this vast region, crushing resistance with a cold, calculated efficiency that beggars belief. Your legions, forged in the crucible of battle, are becoming an unstoppable force, a perfectly oiled war machine under your command. But the Gauls, despite their disunity, are not easily broken. They rise again and again, fueled by a fierce desire for freedom, forcing you to engage in a grueling war of attrition, a slow, bloody grind for ultimate control. One of your most challenging adversaries emerges Vercingetorix, a young, charismatic chieftain of the Arverni tribe. Unlike previous Gallic leaders, Vercingetorix understands the true nature of Roman power. He unifies many of the disparate Gallic tribes, forming a formidable confederacy, something no one has managed to do before. He realizes that open battle against your legions is often suicidal. Instead, he adopts a scorched earth policy, burning Gallic towns and supplies to deny your army resources, forcing you to extend your supply lines and fight in increasingly desperate conditions. This shift in strategy poses a significant, awful challenge, a new kind of brutal warfare. Imagine the frustration of marching your legions through vast, empty landscapes, the villages burned, the fields torched, finding nothing but ashes where you expected provisions. This scorched earth tactic is designed to starve you out, to wear down your men, and to break their morale. It forces your logistical genius to its limits, requiring ever more daring foraging expeditions and ingenious supply solutions. It's a relentless psychological war, as much as a physical one, against an unseen enemy. This clever, yet brutal strategy employed by Vercingetorix is a widely known historical fact. You respond to Vercingetorix's tactics with your own brand of ruthless pragmatism. When a Gallic town like Avaricum, modern Bourges, refuses to surrender and tries to hold out against you, you lay a brutal siege, despite the Gauls' desperate resistance and your own men suffering from hunger. You refuse to relent when Avaricum finally falls. After weeks of intense fighting, you allow virtually no mercy. Tens of thousands are slaughtered, men, women, and children, as a horrifying lesson to other tribes considering resistance. This act of calculated brutality sends a clear message: resisting Rome comes at an unimaginable price. It's a chilling demonstration of the depths you are willing to sink to secure victory. One lesser-known detail about your campaign against Vercingetorix is the incredible loyalty and discipline of your Roman legions. Even in the face of immense hardship, despite being hungry, exhausted, and constantly under threat, they rarely mutiny or break ranks. This speaks volumes about your leadership, your ability to inspire devotion, and the inherent strength of the Roman military system. You fostered a bond with your men that transcended mere military command, turning them into a cohesive, unyielding force. The academic debate still explores the precise nature of this bond. Was it genuine affection, fear, the promise of plunder, or simply the ingrained discipline of the Roman military machine? It's likely a complex mix of all these factors. Your campaigns are also marked by breathtaking feats of engineering. When you encounter a major river, you simply build a bridge. When you face a fortified hill, you construct ramparts and siege engines with astonishing speed. Your engineers are constantly at work, transforming the landscape to suit your military objectives. This ability to rapidly build and adapt is a key factor in overcoming the natural and man-made defenses of Gaul. It's almost as if you're bending nature to your will, a brutal testament to Roman ingenuity. After a series of skirmishes and maneuvers, Vercingetorix, under pressure from his own allies and perhaps hoping to provoke a decisive battle on his terms, makes a strategic error. He fortifies himself and his vast army in the hilltop Oppidum, a fortified town of Alesia. This is the moment you realize, for the definitive showdown, the battle that will determine the fate of Gaul. You arrive at Alesia and immediately recognize its formidable natural defenses. It sits atop a high hill, surrounded by two rivers and a plain, instead of a direct assault, which would be suicidal given the Gauls' strong position and overwhelming numbers. You devise a truly audacious and brutally ambitious plan: a double siege. This is where your tactical genius and your ruthless disregard for human cost truly shine. You order your legions to construct a colossal circumvallation, a continuous line of fortifications encircling Alesia, some 11 miles long. This inner wall faces the Oppidum, designed to starve out Vercingetorix's forces and prevent any breakout attempts. But you don't stop there. You then order the construction of a second, even larger contra-circumvallation, some 14 miles long, facing outward. This outer wall is designed to defend your besieging army from the inevitable Gallic relief forces that Vercingetorix has surely summoned. Imagine the sheer scale of this undertaking: tens of thousands of Roman legionaries, working day and night, digging ditches, erecting palisades, building watchtowers, all while facing constant harassment from the Gauls inside Alesia. This wasn't just construction. It was a brutal feat of sustained manual labor under combat conditions. The constant threat, the physical exhaustion, the psychological pressure of being caught between two enormous Gallic armies. It would have been an absolutely soul-crashing experience for your men. Just another day digging ditches for Caesar, a legionary might mutter, his hands raw and blistered. While the barbarians stare at us from both sides, the siege of Alesia becomes a brutal test of endurance for all involved. Inside the Oppidum, Vercingetorix's forces and the civilian population rapidly run out of food. They resort to desperate measures, eventually expelling women, children, and the elderly from the city. Hoping you will allow them to pass through your lines, your response is chillingly pragmatic. You refuse. You leave them trapped in the no man's land between the Gallic walls and your own, hoping their suffering will further demoralize Vercingetorix's army. It's a truly horrific act, a calculated decision to use starvation as a weapon, a testament to the brutal efficiency of Roman warfare. This desperate act by Vercingetorix, and your cold refusal, is a dark but widely accepted detail of the siege. When the massive Gallic relief army finally arrives, they launch furious assaults against your outer wall. Simultaneously, Vercingetorix's starving forces inside Alesia attempt to break out against your inner wall. You are caught in a vice, fighting on two fronts. Your legions stretch to their breaking point. The battles are desperate, hand to hand, a chaotic maelstrom of steel and blood. You, as commander, are everywhere, riding along the ramparts, inspiring your men, directing reinforcements to critical points. Your personal bravery and unwavering resolve are crucial in holding the line. Against all odds, your legions hold. The sheer discipline, engineering prowess, and your relentless leadership prove victorious. The Gallic relief army is routed, and Vercingetorix, seeing no hope of escape or relief, surrenders to you. He rides out from Alesia, lays down his arms at your feet, a defiant but defeated chieftain. The aftermath of Alesia is as brutal as the siege itself. Vercingetorix is taken captive, destined to be paraded in your future triumph in Rome, only to be executed years later. Tens of thousands of Gauls from the relief army are slaughtered or enslaved. The entire population of Alesia that survives starvation and battle also faces a harsh fate. This monumental victory effectively breaks the back of Gallic resistance, solidifying Roman control over the vast region. Alesia is not just a battle, it's a statement. It showcases your unparalleled tactical genius, your ability to conceive and execute a plan of astonishing complexity, but it also reveals the brutal, unforgiving nature of your warfare, your willingness to employ calculated cruelty to achieve your objectives. You have conquered Gaul, but at an immeasurable cost in human lives. This brutal war, marked by immense suffering and staggering casualties, will forever be intertwined with your name, a testament to both your brilliance and your ruthlessness. With Vercingetorix defeated and Gaul largely subdued, you stand at the zenith of your military power. The brutal Gallic wars, though costly, have transformed you from a debt-ridden politician into the undisputed military genius of Rome. Your legions are fiercely loyal, hardened by years of relentless campaigning, and devoted to you personally. They are no longer just soldiers of the Republic, they are your soldiers. This absolute loyalty is a crucial and brutal reality that will soon pit you against the very state you ostensibly serve. Back in Rome, the political landscape has become a viper's nest. Your alliance, the first triumvirate, has fractured. Crassus is dead, killed in a disastrous campaign against the Parthians in the east. Pompey the Great, once your ally and son-in-law, now sees you as an existential threat. He has aligned himself fully with the conservative faction in the Senate, the Optimates, who view your immense popularity, your vast wealth, and your devoted army with growing alarm and suspicion. They fear your ambition. Sensing that you seek to dismantle the Republic and establish a personal tyranny, the Senate, increasingly desperate to curb your power, issues a series of decrees aimed at forcing you to relinquish your command and return to Rome as a private citizen. They demand that you disband your legions before you enter Italy, a move that would leave you vulnerable to prosecution by your political enemies, and effectively strip you of all power. This is the ultimate political trap, a blatant attempt to neutralize you. You, a man who has always understood the ruthless game of Roman politics. See clearly that complying would mean political suicide, and likely, actual death. You, however, are not a man to surrender. You have faced down entire Gallic nations, outmaneuvered countless enemies, and built an army of unparalleled loyalty. To submit now would be to betray everything you have fought for, everything you have become. The choice before you is stark comply and face political oblivion, or defy the Senate and plunge Rome into civil war. The moment of truth arrives at the Rubicon River, a small, insignificant stream that marks the boundary between your province of Cisalpine Gaul and Italy proper. Roman law explicitly forbids a general from crossing this river with his army, a clear line in the sand separating military command from civilian authority. To cross it with your legions would be an act of open rebellion, an unforgivable affront to the Republic. It's January 10th, 49 BCE. You stand on the banks of the Rubicon, your legions arrayed behind you, their standards gleaming in the cold winter light. The decision weighs heavily. You know the immense consequences of this civil war. Bloodshed, the potential destruction of Rome itself. But you also know that hesitation means certain defeat. Your reputation, your ambition, your very survival demand that you move forward. The famous phrase, "Alea jacta est," the die is cast, is uttered. A declaration of irreversible commitment. You lead your legions across the Rubicon. This single act is a watershed moment, a popular historical fact that irrevocably alters the course of Roman history. The immediate aftermath is a mixture of shock and chaos in Rome. Pompey and the Optimates, caught off guard by your audacity and the speed of your advance, are forced to abandon Rome. They flee south, hoping to raise forces and organize resistance. You march swiftly, seizing control of Italy with surprising ease. As city after city opens its gates to you, many citizens weary of the Senate's infighting and drawn by your reputation. One common historical fact that often goes unnoticed is the speed of Caesar's initial advance through Italy. It wasn't a brutal, pitched battle at every turn. Many towns, seeing the overwhelming strength of your veteran legions and the chaotic retreat of Pompey's forces, simply surrendered without a fight. This rapid control of the Italian peninsula was a crucial psychological victory. Demonstrating your momentum and Pompey's perceived weakness, the academic debate still exists on the precise motivation behind Caesar's crossing of the Rubicon. Was it purely self-preservation, a preemptive strike against a hostile Senate, or was it a calculated move to seize ultimate power? A long-held ambition finally unleashed. Scholars continue to interpret Caesar's actions through different lenses. Analyzing his writings and the accounts of contemporary historians, your pursuit of Pompey becomes a relentless, brutal chase across the Mediterranean world. Pompey, a renowned general in his own right, is not easily cornered. He retreats to Greece, planning to gather a massive army from the eastern provinces, leveraging his vast network of allies and client kings. You, however, cannot allow him the time to consolidate such a force. You must act swiftly. The logistical challenges of this civil war are immense. You need to transport your legions across the Adriatic Sea, a perilous undertaking in winter. Especially when Pompey controls the seas, you demonstrate your characteristic ingenuity and boldness. Despite the risks, you manage to ferry a significant portion of your army across, leaving others to follow. This daring sea crossing highlights your willingness to take immense risks. A brutal and almost reckless courage that often paid off. The Civil War is inherently more brutal than the Gallic Wars. You are now fighting fellow Romans, men who once served under the same eagle standards, who speak the same language. The psychological toll on your soldiers, and on yourself, must be immense. The battles are often hard-fought, as both sides are comprised of disciplined Roman legions. There are no easy victories, only grinding. Bloody engagements? One specific. Truly awful. Detailed during this phase is the Battle of Dyrrhachium, modern Durrës, Albania. Here, you attempt to besiege Pompey's much larger army, which is strongly entrenched. You try to build a massive circumvallation, similar to Alesia, but on an even grander scale, stretching for miles. However, Pompey's forces are too numerous, and their lines too strong. You suffer a significant defeat, narrowly avoiding a complete rout, and are forced to retreat. It's a rare setback, a moment where your invincibility is seriously challenged, a stark reminder that even you are fallible. It shows the brutal reality that civil wars often have no clear victor until the very end. You might have found yourself, for a brief moment, questioning your audacity. Perhaps I am just a man, after all. You might have thought, seeing your legions shattered and retreating, despite this setback. You maintain your composure and rebuild your forces. You strategically withdraw into Thessaly, drawing Pompey after you, preparing for a decisive confrontation. You understand that even a defeated army can regroup and strike again, and your resilience in the face of this defeat is a testament to your unwavering resolve. The civil war is far from over, and the path to ultimate victory, and thus ultimate power, remains shrouded in the brutal mist of battle. The brutal civil war rages on, and having suffered a rare but significant setback at Dyrrhachium, you, Julius Caesar, are far from defeated. Your strategic retreat into Thessaly in modern-day Greece is not a sign of weakness, but a calculated maneuver. You need to resupply, reorganize, and crucially, draw Pompey into a decisive pitched battle on ground of your choosing. You understand that your veteran legions, though outnumbered, are superior in discipline and experience to Pompey's more hastily assembled forces. The waiting game begins, a brutal test of nerve for both commanders. Pompey, buoyed by his victory at Dyrrhachium, is pressured by the impatient senators in his camp to deliver the final blow. They crave a quick, decisive victory, underestimating your resilience and the unwavering loyalty of your legions. This overconfidence, a common historical flaw of many commanders, plays directly into your hands. He eventually follows you into the plains of Thessaly, setting the stage for the most pivotal battle of your life. The showdown occurs on August 9th, 48 BCE, at Pharsalus. This is not just a battle between two Roman generals, it is a clash of titans, a defining moment for the future of the Roman Republic. Pompey's army is numerically superior, boasting more legions and a significant advantage in cavalry, which he plans to use to outflank your forces. You, on the other hand, rely on the discipline of your hardened veterans and your own tactical genius. You deploy your legions with characteristic precision, knowing Pompey's plan to use his cavalry to sweep around your flank. You secretly place a hidden reserve of infantry on your right wing, instructing them to stand firm and then countercharge the attacking cavalry. This audacious and brilliant tactical innovation, a truly brutal surprise, is designed to shatter Pompey's cavalry and then roll up his main line. The battle itself is a chaotic, bloody maelstrom. The Roman legions clash in a furious hand-to-hand struggle. Shield against shield, sword against sword. The dust rises in thick clouds, mingling with the cries of the wounded and the roar of the commanders. You, as always, are at the forefront, inspiring your men, constantly assessing the flow of battle, ready to issue critical orders. Your hidden infantry unit executes its maneuver perfectly, smashing into Pompey's advancing cavalry, turning their strength into a fatal weakness. The cavalry scatters, leaving Pompey's legions exposed and vulnerable. The rout is complete. Pompey's army collapses, and his legions flee in disarray. The fields of Pharsalus become a gruesome tableau of Roman against Roman, a horrifying testament to the brutal cost of civil war. Thousands are killed. Countless more are captured. You order that no Roman citizen be killed unnecessarily. A shrewd move to win over wavering Pompeian soldiers to your cause? Yet the scale of the carnage is immense. Pharsalus is a crushing victory for you, effectively deciding the civil war in your favor. This major historical event is one of the most studied battles in antiquity, one particularly awful and poignant. Detail from Pharsalus is the sheer volume of Roman dead, unlike your Gallic campaigns where you fought foreign tribes. Here you are fighting fellow citizens, men who share your language, your gods, and often your heritage. The sight of Roman legionaries dying by the thousands, not against a common foe, but at the hands of their countrymen, must have been a chilling reminder of the tragic nature of the conflict you had unleashed. It's a moment where victory feels hollowed out by the immense human cost. Another triumph, you might muse, looking over the field of dead. Another 1,000 Romans lost. What price glory? Indeed, after the devastating defeat, Pompey flees to Egypt, hoping to find refuge and raise new forces from the Ptolemaic pharaoh. You pursue him relentlessly, understanding that as long as Pompey lives, the civil war is not truly over. Your pursuit takes you across the Mediterranean to the ancient land of the Nile, a stark contrast to the battlefields of Greece. However, when you arrive in Alexandria, Egypt, you are met with a shocking and brutal sight: Pompey's severed head. He has been assassinated by agents of King Ptolemy III, the young pharaoh, who hoped to curry favor with you by eliminating your rival. This act, meant as a tribute, deeply offends you, despite your enmity. Pompey was a Roman consul, a great general, and once your son-in-law. His undignified death at the hands of a foreign monarch is an insult to Roman honor, and to you personally. You express genuine sorrow at his demise, a complex mix of grief and perhaps relief. The academic debate still exists around the exact nature of Caesar's reaction to Pompey's death, while his public display of grief is widely recounted. Some historians argue it was also a politically astute move, designed to cast himself as the honorable Roman avenger, rather than a ruthless pursuer. Regardless, the event cemented his status as the undisputed victor of the civil war. Your arrival in Egypt immediately plunges you into the murky, dangerous waters of Ptolemaic court intrigue. The young pharaoh, Ptolemy III, is locked in a bitter power struggle with his ambitious and famously charismatic sister, Cleopatra VII. You, the victorious Roman general, find yourself unexpectedly cast as the arbiter of this sibling rivalry. Cleopatra, a master of manipulation and persuasion, famously has herself smuggled into your quarters in a rolled-up carpet to gain a private audience, a move that immediately captures your attention and imagination. You are drawn to Cleopatra's intellect, her ambition, and her profound understanding of politics. You quickly side with her in the dynastic dispute, seeing in her a more capable and pliable ruler for Egypt, a vital grain-producing province for Rome. This decision, however, leads to another brutal conflict, the Alexandrian War. The eunuchs and generals loyal to Ptolemy III, outraged by your intervention, launch a fierce resistance against you and your small force trapped within Alexandria. The Alexandrian War is a dangerous, close-quarters urban battle. You and your legions are isolated, fighting in the narrow streets and ancient buildings of a foreign city, surrounded by hostile forces. You are even forced to swim for your life through the harbor during one particularly desperate skirmish. Abandoning your famous purple cloak, it's a humiliating but ultimately successful struggle, culminating in the defeat and death of Ptolemy the Syrian. You solidify Cleopatra's rule, ensuring Egypt remains a loyal Roman client state, crucial for Rome's grain supply, this Egyptian interlude, while a brief diversion from your main objective of consolidating power in Rome, proves to be strategically important. You secure a vital food source for Rome, eliminate a potential rival power, and establish a personal connection with Cleopatra that would endure for years. It's a testament to your ability to turn any situation, no matter how unexpected or perilous, into a strategic advantage, often through brutal means. With Egypt pacified and Cleopatra on the throne, you finally leave the land of pharaohs, but not before fathering a son with Cleopatra. Caesarion, a testament to the passionate, yet politically charged relationship that blossomed amidst the chaos of war. Your gaze is now firmly fixed on Rome, where your long-awaited return and the task of rebuilding the shattered republic await. But the shadow of your ambition and the brutal path you've carved will inevitably lead to new conflicts, with Pompey dead and Egypt secured under Cleopatra's watchful and grateful eye. Your path back to absolute power in Rome seems clear. However, the brutal civil war is not entirely over. Remnants of the Pompeian faction, led by determined and desperate generals, have regrouped in various provinces. Unwilling to concede defeat, you, Julius Caesar, must embark on a series of final, decisive campaigns to utterly crush all resistance and solidify your control over the entire Roman world. This is not just about military victory, it's about imposing a definitive peace. A Roman peace. On a shattered republic. Your first target is Pharnaces Stiku, the king of Pontus, who has seized advantage of the Roman civil war to reclaim territory in Asia Minor. This is a swift, almost surgical campaign. You lead your veteran legions across Anatolia, engaging Pharnaces' forces at the Battle of Zela in 47 BCE. The battle is a complete rout, a testament to your legion's unwavering discipline and your tactical speed. The victory is so swift and decisive that you famously send a dispatch to Rome with the laconic phrase, Veni, vidi, vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. This concise declaration becomes a legendary summation of your military efficiency and effortless superiority. It's a moment of brutal clarity. Resistance is futile. This phrase is one of the most widely known historical facts associated with your name. One particularly awful detail about this campaign, though brief, is the sheer logistical challenge of moving armies rapidly across vast distances. Even for a quick victory, imagine the forced marches, the constant need for supplies, and the physical toll on your men as they traversed unfamiliar and often rugged terrain to quickly engage an enemy. While the battles themselves might have been swift, the journey to and from them was a relentless grind, punishing even the most seasoned legionaries. Another forced march, another blister, a legionary might mutter, wiping sweat from his brow. At least this time the fighting's quicker than the walking. The academic debate still exists around the precise tactical details of the Battle of Zela itself, while Caesar's account makes it seem effortless. Some historians suggest the victory was perhaps more complex, relying on a combination of terrain advantage and the inexperience of Pharnaces' troops rather than just sheer Roman invincibility. Nevertheless, its political impact was undeniable. Next, you must deal with the more formidable Pompeian remnants in Africa, led by figures like Metellus Scipio Pompey's father-in-law and Cato the Younger, a staunch Republican and your implacable ideological foe. These forces are significant, comprising multiple legions, cavalry, and even war elephants. This is a more protracted and challenging campaign, forcing you to once again prove your mettle against disciplined Roman armies. You land in Africa in late 47 BCE, immediately facing a hostile environment and a well-prepared enemy. The campaign is marked by complex maneuvers, skirmishes, and sieges. The African terrain, with its deserts and reliance on water sources, adds another layer of difficulty. You employ all your strategic cunning, outflanking enemy positions, securing vital supply lines, and constantly seeking to provoke a decisive engagement. The culmination of this African campaign is the Battle of Thapsus in April 46 BCE. This is another major pitched battle where your veteran legions face a numerically superior Roman force. You once again employ clever tactics, possibly even relying on the unexpected behavior of the enemy's war elephants, which reportedly panicked and turned on their own lines. The result is a crushing victory. Thousands of Pompeian soldiers are killed or captured, and the core of their resistance in Africa is shattered. This is a brutal, definitive end to the Republican cause in Africa. The aftermath of Thapsus includes the famous suicide of Cato the Younger at Utica. Rather than surrender to you, whom he viewed as the destroyer of the Republic, Cato chooses to take his own life, dying as a principled defender of Roman Republican ideals. His death is a powerful symbolic moment, representing the extinguishing of the old Republican flame. While you admire his principles, his uncompromising stance was an obstacle to your vision of a unified Rome. This act of defiance by Cato is a well-known historical event. Though details of his last moments are debated, one lesser-known detail of your African campaign is the sheer brutality of the climate and local conditions. Imagine fighting a prolonged war in North Africa, grappling with intense heat, dust storms, and unfamiliar diseases. Your legions, accustomed to the cooler climes of Gaul, would have endured significant suffering from the environment alone, adding another layer of awful to the grind of combat. It's not the Gauls, it's the damn sand and everything. A legionary might cough, spitting out grit. And these flies, Jupiter help us. The academic debate surrounding the African campaign, particularly the Battle of Thapsus, often focuses on the exact composition of the Pompeian forces and the extent of their resistance. Some scholars argue that while numerically superior, their morale was already broken by successive defeats, making your victory perhaps less a testament to sheer genius and more to a steady application of overwhelming force against a demoralized foe. Finally, your last major military challenge comes from Spain. Pompey's sons, Naesius and Sextus Pompey, along with other surviving Republican leaders, have raised a significant army, primarily composed of veterans from Pompey's old Spanish legions and local levies. This is another brutal civil war campaign. Far from over, you, despite suffering from a minor illness, must personally lead your legions into Spain. The campaign there is notoriously difficult. The terrain is rugged, ideal for guerrilla warfare, and the Pompeian forces are well entrenched and fighting with the desperation of men with nothing left to lose. Battles are hard-fought, sieges are prolonged, and the resistance is fierce. The decisive engagement occurs at the Battle of Munda in March 45 BCE. This is perhaps your toughest battle. Your legions are pushed to their absolute limits. And at one point, it seems as though your lines might break. You are forced to personally rally your wavering troops, dismounting your horse and fighting alongside them in the thick of the melee, demonstrating once again your immense personal courage and unwavering resolve. This act of leading from the front, a characteristic trait throughout your career, is crucial in turning the tide. The victory at Munda is a bloody, hard-won triumph. The Pompeian forces are annihilated, and Gnaeus Pompey is killed. Sextus Pompey manages to escape, but his forces are shattered, ending any organized Republican military resistance. The cost in lives is immense, a final brutal reckoning for the Civil War. With these victories in Africa and Spain, the brutal civil war is definitively over. You, Julius Caesar, stand as the undisputed master of the Roman world. You have eradicated all significant military opposition, leaving no viable challenge to your authority. Your long, arduous, and brutal journey of conquest, from the misty forests of Gaul to the deserts of Africa and the rugged mountains of Spain, is finally complete. Now, the true challenge begins transforming a shattered republic into something new, something that reflects your singular vision of Roman power. This marks your transition from triumphant general to absolute ruler. a shift that will ultimately seal your fate. Having crushed all military opposition, you, Julius Caesar, return to Rome in triumph. The city, weary from years of civil war, greets you with adulation. You celebrate multiple magnificent triumphs, elaborate parades showcasing your conquests in Gaul, Egypt, Asia, and Africa. Imagine the spectacle captured Gallic chieftains, exotic animals, vast quantities of plunder, and thousands of your veteran legionaries marching through the streets, their standards bearing the scars of countless battles. The crowds roar their approval, a testament to your unparalleled military success. This is the ultimate celebration of Roman military glory, a public display of the immense power you now wield. However, this is not merely a celebration, it's a consolidation of power. The Senate, weakened and purged of many of your enemies, is now largely subservient. They heap honors upon you, granting you an unprecedented series of titles and powers. You are made dictator for 10 years, and later, dictator perpetuo, dictator for life. This is a profound break from Roman tradition, where dictatorships were temporary, emergency measures. You are accumulating powers that fundamentally alter the very nature of the republic, moving it towards a centralized, autocratic rule. Your goal now is not just to rule, but to reform Rome. You embark on an ambitious program of social, economic, and political changes designed to address the deep-seated problems that plagued the Republic and contributed to the civil wars. You understand that peace and stability require more than just military victory. They require fundamental structural changes. One of your most significant and enduring reforms is the Julian calendar. The old Roman calendar was a mess, constantly needing adjustments and out of sync with the seasons, often manipulated by politicians. You, with the help of astronomers, introduce a new solar calendar of 365 days with a leap year every 4 years, creating a system that is remarkably accurate and would endure for centuries, forming the basis of the calendar we still use today. This seemingly mundane reform is a testament to your practicality and foresight. This calendar reform is a widely known historical fact about your legacy. You also address the pressing issue of debt. Many Romans, including your own soldiers, are burdened by overwhelming debt. You implement measures to relieve some of this burden, including debt restructuring and public works programs that provide employment. This helps to alleviate social unrest and gain popular support, crucial for stabilizing the war-torn republic. You embark on ambitious public works projects in Rome. You plan and begin construction of new forums, temples, and basilicas, designed to beautify the city, provide employment, and commemorate your own achievements. These projects transform the urban landscape of Rome, leaving a lasting architectural legacy. This isn't just about building, it's about projecting an image of renewal and imperial grandeur, one particularly insightful, and perhaps a bit awful. Observation about your reforms is your approach to citizenship and provincial integration. Unlike many Roman elites who viewed provincials as second-class citizens, you extend Roman citizenship to many communities in Gaul and Spain. You also appoint prominent provincials to the Senate, integrating them into the Roman political system. This is a pragmatic move designed to build loyalty and create a more unified empire. But it also sparks resentment among some traditionalist Roman senators who view it as diluting Roman identity and power. Giving those barbarians a seat in our Senate, they might grumble, their faces a mixture of disdain and fear. This reform, while progressive for its time, highlights the friction between your vision and traditional Roman values. The academic debate continues over whether Caesar's reforms were truly altruistic attempts to fix a broken republic or primarily designed to centralize power around himself, while many of his reforms demonstrably improved Roman administration and stability. Scholars still discuss the extent to which they served his personal ambition versus the common good. You also significantly reform the Roman legions. You reward your veterans generously with land grants, ensuring their loyalty. You reorganize the army, Creating a more professional and efficient fighting force, your reforms enhance the discipline and effectiveness of the legions, ensuring that they remain the ultimate instrument of your power and Rome's continued expansion. However, despite your reforms and immense popularity among the common people and your soldiers, deep-seated resentment festers among the Roman elite. Many senators, particularly those from old aristocratic families, view your dictatorship as a betrayal of republican ideals. They fear your ambition, believing that you aim to become a king, a title anathema to Roman republicanism since the expulsion of their king centuries ago. They see your accumulating honors not as legitimate recognition, but as signs of impending tyranny. The Senate, once the supreme governing body of the Republic, now feels increasingly marginalized and powerless. Your methods, while efficient, often bypass traditional Republican procedures. You make decisions unilaterally, without lengthy debates or consultations. Accustomed as you are to the absolute command of a general on campaign, this autocratic style, while effective, alienates those who cling to the old ways of shared power and deliberation. One specific, truly awful detail that fuels this resentment is your acceptance of unprecedented honors and your increasingly regal bearing. You wear a purple toga, the color of kings and triumphators, at all times. You have statues erected of yourself in temples, sometimes even alongside the gods. Your image is stamped on coins, a symbol of your personal rule. These actions, while perhaps natural for a triumphant general in the East, are seen as profoundly offensive and dangerously king-like by many staunch Republicans. They view it as a direct assault on the very foundations of Roman liberty. "He walks like a king. He dresses like a king," they whisper, their voices laced with venom. "And he means to rule like one." The plotting begins in the shadows, fueled by fear, ambition, and a desperate desire to restore the Republic. A diverse group of conspirators forms, including former Pompeians whom you have magnanimously pardoned, and even some of your own former allies and trusted friends. Among them are Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus, men who believe themselves to be inheritors of Rome's republican traditions. They genuinely believe that by eliminating you, they will save the Republic from tyranny. This stark ideological clash, a brutal conflict of principles, sets the stage for your ultimate demise. You, focused on further grand plans, perhaps a Parthian campaign to avenge Crassus and expand the empire, are reportedly warned of various omens and plots. But you dismiss them, perhaps out of overconfidence, or a fatalistic belief in your own destiny, or simply because you believe your popularity and reforms have disarmed your enemies. You are, after all, the master of Rome, seemingly invincible. This hubris, a common tragic flaw, will prove to be your undoing. You have conquered the world, but you failed to conquer the lingering resentment of those who valued liberty above all else, even above peace. As you, Julius Caesar, consolidate your power, ruling Rome as dictator perpetuo, the vast administrative machinery of the empire begins to hum with your directives. Your reforms are implemented, reshaping Rome's infrastructure, its calendar, and its social fabric. Yet, even as you bring unprecedented order and stability after years of civil war, a simmering resentment boils beneath the surface, particularly among the traditional Roman elite. They see your absolute rule not as a necessary peace, but as a tyrannical betrayal of the Republic's cherished ideals. Amidst this tense political climate, a curious and perhaps politically strategic diversion takes place: your continued entanglement with Cleopatra VII of Egypt. After the Alexandrian War, she visits Rome, not as a captive queen, but as a formidable ally and the mother of your son, Caesarion. Her presence in the heart of Rome, a foreign monarch influencing Roman politics and openly associated with you, is a scandalous and deeply unsettling sight for many traditionalist Romans. She resides in your gardens, receiving senators and dignitaries, further fueling the whispers of your monarchical ambitions. Imagine the dinner parties, the hushed conversations among senators, about this exotic queen who walks the streets of Rome as if she owns them, protected by your legions. The sight of Cleopatra, dressed in Egyptian splendor, alongside her child, Caesarion, who bears an uncanny resemblance to you, is a constant visual affront to Roman propriety. This open relationship with a foreign ruler, particularly one from a land that Rome considered a client state, deeply offends the sensibilities of many Roman aristocrats. It's an awful social and political misstep in the eyes of your enemies, providing potent propaganda against your rule. He's not just a dictator, they might whisper. He's consorting with foreign queens, flaunting his bastard son, aspiring to Eastern kingship. Your fascination with Egypt, and with Cleopatra herself, is undeniable. You are drawn to her intellect, her charm, and her understanding of the vast wealth and resources of Egypt, a crucial granary for Rome. You see her as a valuable partner in your vision of a reorganized Roman world, perhaps even dreaming of a grand Hellenistic Roman Empire. This strategic alliance, however, comes at a high personal and political cost in Rome. One common historical fact is that Cleopatra's visit to Rome lasted for a significant period, probably from 46 to 44 BCE, solidifying her influence and causing considerable scandal. Her statue was even placed in the temple of Venus Genetrix, your patron goddess, a truly provocative act in Roman eyes. While in Rome, Cleopatra seeks formal recognition for Caesarion as your heir, a move you wisely decline to make public. Understanding the explosive political implications, recognizing an illegitimate son by a foreign queen would be an unforgivable affront to Roman law and custom, particularly given your lack of a legitimate Roman male heir. This personal and political balancing act, maintaining your relationship with Cleopatra while trying to avoid further alienating the Roman elite, is a constant source of tension. The academic debate still exists around the true depth of Caesar's feelings for Cleopatra. Was it a genuine romantic connection, a purely political alliance, or a mix of both? Scholars analyze contemporary accounts, often biased, to try and discern the nature of their relationship and its impact on your political decisions. Your focus, however, eventually shifts back to the grander designs for Rome. You continue to implement your reforms, aiming to create a stable and prosperous empire. You consider ambitious military campaigns, perhaps against the Parthian Empire, a formidable foe in the east that had humiliated Rome by defeating Crassus. Such a campaign would not only avenge a Roman defeat, but also provide new opportunities for glory and expansion, further solidifying your popular appeal and distracting from domestic discontent. You are acutely aware of the resentment brewing among the old guard. You famously dismiss your bodyguards, walking freely through the forum, demonstrating an almost fatalistic confidence in your popularity and the security of your position. Perhaps you believe that your clemency towards former enemies, your broad reforms, and your overwhelming public support make you invulnerable. This overconfidence, a trait that had often served you well on the battlefield, proves to be a fatal flaw in the political arena. One lesser-known detail about your daily life during this period is your meticulous attention to personal grooming and appearance. Despite your rough military career, you were known for being exceptionally well-groomed, meticulously combing your hair to disguise your baldness, and being particular about your clothing. This attention to detail, almost vanity, speaks to your constant awareness of public image and the need to project an aura of control and confidence. Even amidst the political turmoil, it's a small, almost mundane detail, but it paints a picture of a man always on display, always performing. The conspirators, however, are not swayed by your reforms or your public image. They see only the systematic dismantling of the Republic, the accumulation of unprecedented power in one man's hands, and the ominous specter of monarchy. They are a diverse group. Some are genuinely motivated by Republican ideals, others by personal grievances, and still others by fear for their own power and status. They come from both your former allies and your former enemies, a treacherous mix. The key figures in this conspiracy are Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus. Brutus, a descendant of the founder of the Republic, is known for his philosophical leanings and his reputation for integrity, a man seemingly driven by principle. Cassius is a more pragmatic and ruthless individual, a talented military commander who nurses a deep resentment towards you. They managed to gather a significant number of senators and other prominent Romans, uniting them in a shared conviction that you must be stopped at any cost. The awful aspect of this conspiracy is the betrayal from within your own circle. Many of these men, including Brutus, had been pardoned by you after the Civil War and even promoted to high office. You had shown them clemency and trust, believing in your ability to unite Rome. Their decision to assassinate you represents a profound personal betrayal, a testament to the unyielding power of Republican ideology and the fear of unchecked ambition. This internal betrayal makes the coming act even more brutal and shocking. The plotting intensifies. Discussions held in hushed tones in private villas. Secret meetings under the cover of darkness. They choose their moment carefully, aiming to strike publicly to send a clear message. The Ides of March, 44 BCE, becomes the chosen date. A meeting of the Senate, where you, the dictator for life, would be present and vulnerable. The stage is set for a climax of betrayal and violence, a moment that will forever be seared into the annals of Roman history. You, having conquered the known world, are about to face an enemy you tragically underestimate, the bitter resentment of those who believe you have destroyed the very essence of Rome. The shadow of the Ides of March lengthens over Rome. You, Julius Caesar, the undisputed master of the Roman world, proceed with your daily affairs, perhaps with a sense of complacency or a fatalistic acceptance of your destiny. You are immersed in grand plans, new conquests, the codification of Roman law, vast public works. You dismiss warnings, ignore omens, and even send away your personal bodyguard, believing yourself secure in your popularity and the widespread peace you have brought to Rome. This overconfidence, a trait that made you unstoppable on the battlefield, becomes your fatal vulnerability in the labyrinthine world of Roman politics. The conspiracy against you, fueled by the deep-seated fears of tyranny and a desperate desire to restore the Republic, solidifies the conspirators, a mix of zealous Republicans, ambitious opportunists, and men with personal grievances, plan their shocking act. They decide to strike at a meeting of the Senate, where you, the all-powerful dictator for life, would be present and, crucially, unarmed. The date chosen is March 15th, 44 BCE, the Ides of March. This date is now famously etched into history. Imagine the tension in Rome on that fateful morning. Whispers might have circulated, dark predictions from soothsayers. But you, ever the pragmatic rationalist, disregard them. Your wife, Calpurnia, reportedly has a vivid dream of your death and begs you not to attend the Senate. Your intuition, usually razor sharp, seems clouded by a mixture of hubris and, perhaps, an exhaustion with the endless political maneuvering. You are convinced you are untouchable. Or perhaps, you simply no longer care to be guarded as you make your way to the theater of Pompey, where the Senate is meeting that day. A crowd presses around you. Someone reportedly tries to hand you a scroll detailing the plot. But you, distracted, dismiss it. Another prophet, Spurina, whose earlier warning to beware the Ides of March you had famously scoffed at, is said to confront you, only for you to jest. "The Ides of March are come," he replies. "Aye, Caesar, but not gone." A chilling premonition. If only you had heeded it. You enter the Senate chamber. The conspirators, numbering around 60, surround you, their daggers concealed beneath their togas. They approach you under the pretense of presenting a petition, specifically one regarding the recall of an exiled senator. This allows them to get dangerously close, surrounding you in a tight circle. Then the brutal act begins. Tullius Cimber pulls at your toga. The prearranged signal. Publius Servilius Casca strikes the first blow. A glancing wound to your neck. You cry out, grabbing Casca's arm. For a moment, there is chaos, disbelief. You struggle, attempting to defend yourself, a lifetime of military training kicking in, even unarmed. But the conspirators surge forward, a flurry of blades. You are overwhelmed. You see familiar faces among your attackers. Men you had pardoned, men you had promoted, men you had trusted. The most shocking moment, the one that seals your resolve to resist no more, comes when you reportedly see Marcus Junius Brutus, a man you had considered a son, among the assassins. The phrase, "Et tu, Brute." You too, Brutus, whether actually uttered or dramatic embellishment by later writers, perfectly encapsulates the profound sense of betrayal. It's a question not just of treachery, but of why this man, whom you had so openly favored, would participate in such a brutal act. This moment of betrayal is perhaps the most famous and agonizing aspect of your death. You cease to resist. You cover your face with your toga and fall at the base of a statue of your former rival, Pompey the Great. The assassins continue to stab you, even after you are dead. A frenzy of violence, each wanting to claim a part in the tyrant's demise. Or perhaps, to avoid the charge of not participating. You suffer 23 stab wounds, a brutal and excessive display of hatred and fear. The Senate chamber, a place of laws and debate, becomes a blood-soaked testament to political violence. The immediate aftermath is pure chaos. The other senators, not part of the conspiracy, flee in terror, abandoning the blood-splattered hall. The conspirators, believing they have liberated Rome, rush out into the forum, holding aloft their bloody daggers, proclaiming, "Sic semper tyrannus." Thus, always to tyrants, they expect to be hailed as heroes, liberators of the Republic. But the Roman populace, your ardent supporters, are not celebrating. They are shocked, confused, and quickly enraged. The conspirators misjudge the mood of the people. You were loved by the common citizens for your reforms, your generosity, and the peace you had brought. The brutal murder of their champion, committed by a cabal of aristocrats, is met with anger, not gratitude. Your brutal death, at the hands of those who claim to be saving the Republic, plunges Rome back into turmoil. The conspirators find themselves barricaded on the Capitoline Hill, fearing for their lives. The funeral rites that follow, famously orchestrated by your loyal lieutenant, Mark Antony, turn into a fiery display of public grief and outrage. Antony's impassioned speech, showcasing your will and your generosity to the Roman people, further inflames public sentiment against the assassins. The mob erupts, seeking vengeance, forcing the conspirators to flee Rome for their lives. Your assassination, intended to restore the Republic, instead seals its doom. Your death creates a power vacuum, sparking another devastating series of civil wars. Your adopted heir, Octavian, who would later become Augustus, the first Roman emperor, along with Mark Antony and Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, forms the second triumvirate, dedicated to avenging your murder and consolidating their own power. The Roman Republic, already fractured by your earlier civil war with Pompey, now collapses entirely, giving way to the imperial system that your very life and brutal death had foreshadowed. The brutal irony of your assassination, is that it ultimately leads to the very outcome the conspirators feared most, the permanent end of the Republic and the rise of an emperor. Your death marks the true turning point in Roman history, the definitive end of an era. You, Julius Caesar, the man who brought Rome to its knees and then raised it up again in your own image, left an indelible mark on Western civilization, a legacy forged in ambition, genius, and a brutal willingness to spill blood for power. Your name would forever symbolize both the pinnacle of Roman power and the ultimate price of unchecked ambition, your brutal end on the Ides of March. 44 BCE was not merely the conclusion of a life, it was the definitive turning point for an entire civilization. You, Julius Caesar, having reshaped the Roman world through a lifetime of brutal wars and ambitious reforms, finally succumbed to the ultimate political violence assassination. But your death, meant to liberate Rome from perceived tyranny, instead serves as the brutal catalyst for its ultimate transformation from republic to empire. The immediate aftermath of your assassination is a power vacuum, a chaotic void into which Rome plunges headlong. The conspirators, particularly Brutus and Cassius, genuinely believed they were restoring the Republic, acting as latter-day heroes. Yet, the Roman populace, who mourned you as their champion, quickly turns against them. The public funeral, orchestrated with masterful political acumen by Mark Antony, transforms your corpse into a rallying symbol. Antony's powerful eulogy, delivered over your body and showcasing your will, which generously left funds to every Roman citizen, ignites a furious riot. The mob, enraged by your murder, torches the Senate House and hunts down the conspirators, forcing them to flee Rome for their lives. This public outpouring of grief and rage is a testament to your immense popularity among the common people, a brutal confirmation that the conspirators had misjudged the mood of Rome. They had acted on principle, but the masses cared more for peace, stability, and the benefits you had brought them. The liberators quickly become pariahs, chased from the city they sought to save. The Roman world is once again plunged into civil war, a brutal and drawn-out conflict that dwarfs even your earlier struggle with Pompey. 3 key figures emerge to fill the void left by your death: Mark Antony, your loyal and ambitious general, Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, another of your trusted lieutenants, and, most crucially, Gaius Octavius, your young adopted son and heir, who would later be known as Augustus. These 3 men form the Second Triumvirate, a formal political alliance sanctioned by law, with the stated goal of avenging your murder and restoring order to Rome. The Triumvirs unleash a new wave of proscriptions, far bloodier than Sulla's. Thousands of senators, equestrians, and other prominent Romans, suspected of anti-Caesarian sympathies or simply possessing desirable wealth, are hunted down and executed. This is a period of immense terror and brutality, as personal vendettas are settled under the guise of political necessity. The awful reality is that your death unleashed a monstrous cycle of violence, consuming many who had opposed you, and even some who had merely been neutral. It's a chilling reminder that the path to ultimate power in Rome was paved with blood. The decisive confrontation of this new civil war takes place at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE, in Macedonia. Here, the forces of the Second Triumvirate clash with the armies of Brutus and Cassius. This is a massive 2-part battle, fought between 2 large Roman armies. The fighting is fierce, a bloody testament to the desperation of both sides. Cassius, believing the battle lost, commits suicide after the first engagement. Brutus, after a second defeat, also takes his own life, choosing death over surrender to the man whose family he had helped to murder. The defeat and suicides of Brutus and Cassius effectively end any organized Republican resistance. Your assassins are dead, their cause shattered. The civil war, which began with your murder, has now avenged it, but at an immeasurable cost in Roman lives and the definitive destruction of the Republic. This massive, brutal battle is a crucial historical fact. Marking the end of the Roman Republic's practical existence, one common historical fact that is often overlooked in the dramatic narrative of your life is the sheer exhaustion of the Roman populace by the successive civil wars. Imagine living through decades of internal conflict, where allegiances shifted, and death could come at any moment through prescription or battle. By the time of Philippi, much of the Roman world was simply desperate for peace, even if it meant sacrificing the ideals of the Republic for the stability of a single ruler. This underlying weariness played a significant role in the acceptance of the new autocratic order. The academic debate still exists around the precise tactical decisions at Philippi, and the level of coordination, or lack thereof, between Brutus and Cassius. Some historians argue that their strategic errors contributed as much to their defeat as the triumvirs' military prowess. Regardless, the outcome was irreversible, with the defeat of the liberators, the second triumvirate, having achieved its initial goal, soon begins to fracture itself. Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus eventually fall into conflict, leading to another, final round of brutal civil wars. This culminates in the ultimate showdown between Octavian and Mark Antony and Cleopatra at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. A naval battle that Octavian decisively wins. Antony and Cleopatra commit suicide, and Octavian emerges as the sole, undisputed master of the Roman world. Roman, Octavian, your adopted son and political heir, now systematically dismantles the remaining vestiges of the Republic and, with cunning and careful political maneuvering, establishes the Principate, the foundation of the Roman Empire. He takes the name Augustus, and while maintaining the forms of the Republic, he holds all real power, becoming the first Roman emperor. Your vision, whether intended or not, of a single powerful ruler guiding Rome, is fully realized by your successor, your brutal life, marked by ambition, genius, and relentless warfare, created the very conditions for the end of the Republic and the birth of the Empire. Your name, Caesar, becomes synonymous with supreme power, an imperial title adopted by future emperors. Your commentaries on the Gallic War continue to be studied. A masterclass in military strategy and political propaganda, your reforms, particularly the Julian calendar, leave an indelible mark on the practical administration of the world. The legacy of your brutal wars is complex. You caused immense suffering and countless deaths, and ushered in a period of unprecedented violence. Yet, you also brought peace and stability to a fractured republic, expanded Rome's borders, and laid the groundwork for an empire that would endure for centuries. Your life, lived on the grandest stage, was a testament to the brutal realities of power, ambition, and the inexorable march of history. And in the quiet of the night, your story, full of triumph and tragedy, power and betrayal, continues to echo through the ages. The echoes of marching legions and the clang of Roman steel now fade. We've journeyed through the brutal wars of Julius Caesar, a man whose life was a whirlwind of ambition, conquest, and ultimate betrayal. It's a story that reminds us of the immense stakes of power, the sacrifices demanded by greatness, and how even the most decisive victory can lead to an unexpected and tragic end. As you settle deeper into your pillow, let the weight of Roman history, with its emperors and its battles, its triumphs and its betrayals, drift away, leaving you with nothing but the peaceful quiet of your own dreams.